$64.8 billion. Just try to wrap your head around that number. It's so huge it almost doesn't feel real. But believe me, behind that number is a very real story. A story of trust, betrayal, and a single lie that completely shattered thousands and thousands of lives.
And look, we're not talking about just another run-of-the-mill Wall Street scandal here. No. This was, by every single measure, the largest Ponzi scheme in history. The biggest investment fraud ever pulled off by one person. Think of it like a financial supernova that just collapsed in on itself.
So how did this whole thing finally come crashing down? You'd think it would be some complex market event, right? Wrong. It all ended with a simple, devastating confession from the man himself, Bernie Madoff, to his own sons. It's all one big lie.
So that's what we're digging into. The story of the $65 billion lie. We're going to unpack how on earth one man could build a fraudulent empire this massive, and maybe even more mind-boggling, how he got away with it for decades, right under everyone's noses.
Okay, so to really get this, you have to understand the man behind the myth. Because Bernie Madoff, he wasn't some shady outsider. Far from it. This guy was the establishment, a total pillar of the financial world.
I mean, just look at his resume. It was beyond impeccable. He started his firm way back in 1960 with just a little bit of cash. He went on to become the chairman of the NASDAQ stock market. His firm was a pioneer, helping create the very electronic trading systems we take for granted today. This guy didn't just play the game, he helped invent it.
And here's the really crucial part, the thing that made the lie so believable. Madoff's business wasn't all fake, not at all. The legitimate side of his company, the part his sons ran, was the sixth largest market maker on all of Wall Street. This wasn't some shell company, it was a trading powerhouse, and that gave his whole operation this incredible cloak of legitimacy. And that reputation? Well, it led to this. This quote from an investor says it all. You can doubt God, but you don't doubt Bernie. Think about that. We're not talking about financial trust anymore. This was something closer to religious faith. He built this aura of being untouchable, smarter, and safer than anyone else out there.
So, what was the secret? What was his magic formula for delivering these returns that were so steady they basically defied the laws of financial gravity? Well, the truth is, there was no secret sauce. He wasn't delivering them. It was all deception.
At the end of the day, what Madoff was running was a classic Ponzi scheme. You've probably heard the term, but it's super simple. You take money from new investors to pay returns to your earlier investors who want to cash out. The whole house of cards stays up as long as more and more new money keeps pouring in.
And this right here, this shows you the absolute absurdity of it all, the fantasy versus the reality. On one side, you see what he told people he was doing, this super complex, brilliant-sounding split-strike conversion strategy. Sounds impressive, right? Well, the reality. He was doing nothing. Literally nothing. He just dumped billions of dollars of his clients' money into a single checking account and then printed out fake account statements.
Harry Markopolos, the whistleblower who screamed about this for years, had the perfect analogy for it. He said, it's like a baseball player batting .966 for a season. No one does that. It's impossible. A fantastic player might hit .400. Madoff was batting almost 1,000 every single year. You'd have to know something was up.
And this chart shows you exactly what he was talking about visually. Look at the bar for the S&P 500. It's all over the place, up and down. That's what a real market looks like. Now look at Madoff's fund. Just a smooth, steady upward line. No big dips, even when the rest of the market was crashing. That's not skill. That's just made up.
So how did he sell this impossible story for so long? Oh, it was a masterclass in psychological manipulation. First up, exclusivity. You couldn't just throw money at him. You had to be invited. It made people feel special, lucky. Then, affinity. He targeted tight-knit groups where trust was already baked in. And finally, and this was key, consistency. He wasn't promising to make you a billionaire overnight. He promised something way more tempting, safety. A guaranteed 10 to 12% return, year in, year out. No drama.
All right, so this leads us to what is, for me, the most infuriating part of this whole saga. The returns were impossible. The secrecy was weird. The red flags were everywhere. So how did nobody in a position of power stop him?
I mean, this wasn't a short-term thing. This scheme ran for decades. The warning signs weren't just there. They were giant, flashing neon signs. So with all that money on the line, why wasn't he caught sooner? Just look at this timeline. It's a history of missed opportunities. The SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, had a shot at this way back in 1992. Then in 2000, Harry Markopolos literally hands them a report titled, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." How much clearer can you be? And yet, time after time, they'd open an investigation, poke around a little, and then close it. No evidence of fraud. For 16 years, they had the chance to stop him, and they didn't.
And get this, the red flags were almost comical. The auditor for the $65 billion empire, a tiny two-person accounting firm in a strip mall. No, I'm not kidding. Madoff, the guy who helped invent electronic trading, refused to let clients see their accounts online, only paper statements in the mail. And the big sophisticated Wall Street banks, the ones who did their due diligence, they wouldn't touch him. They knew something was wrong.
And if you think it can't get any worse, listen to this. In 2006, there's another SEC investigation. And the lead investigator starts a romantic relationship with, wait for it, Madoff's niece, who happened to be a compliance lawyer at his firm. They actually ended up getting married. The SEC's own internal report found an email from the investigator's supervisor that said, "I guess we won't be investigating Madoff anytime soon." You can't make this stuff up.
So when the end finally came, spurred by the 2008 financial crisis, when investors needed their money back, it was fast and it was brutal. And the cost, well, it wasn't just about dollars and cents. It was deeply, deeply human.
The numbers are just mind-blowing. And we're not just talking about individual people here. We're talking about massive global financial institutions. A firm called Fairfield Greenwich wiped out $7.5 billion gone. Huge international banks like Santander, HSBC, billions lost. The shockwaves from this went right to the heart of the global financial system.
But this is where the numbers really hit home. $1 billion charity, the Pekauer Foundation, doing incredible work, it just ceased to exist overnight. The foundation of Nobel laureate and Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel lost its entire $15 million endowment. And of course, thousands of people lost everything. Their life savings, their retirement, their futures. And so tragically, for some, that loss was just too much to bear.
For his crimes, Bernie Madoff received the maximum possible sentence, 150 years in federal prison. It was a symbolic sentence, really, for a crime on a scale that was almost impossible to comprehend. He died in prison in 2021.
Now, in a story that is just overwhelmingly bleak, there is one surprising piece of good news. A court-appointed trustee went to work clawing back money, and believe it or not, they've managed to recover over $14 billion for the victims. That's about 76% of the actual cash people invested. For a Ponzi scheme, that level of recovery is, well, it's pretty much unheard of.
But that leads us to the big, lingering question. This wasn't just about one bad guy. It was a total failure of the system. It laid bare these massive cracks in financial regulation and, frankly, in our own willingness to believe in a fairy tale. So you have to ask yourself, have we really fixed those problems? Or could another wizard of lies be out there, right now, building the next big one?